and here is the example of the academic speech. So, my brother and I grew up together, being very close in age, and we did almost everything together, but we did things differently. When I was younger, I decided it would be a good idea to walk out on a log over a really deep valley. And my brother immediately saw me, would not go out on the log with me, and told my parents what was happening. And that's kind of an example of who we are and why we're different today. I would say that my brother and I are different in 3 ways. Because he's a little bit younger than me, we have different lifestyles, and we do different things with our lives currently. And secondly, we're different socially. He is more of a social butterfly than I am, and has always been. And lastly, we have different levels of determination, and when it comes to setting goals, we do them slightly differently. So for the first part, one of the first things that makes us different is my brother. He works at REI, but I'm currently going to Western. He is a year and a half younger than I am, and so he's not as old as I am. So he won't be going to Western until next year. And then secondly, we are different socially. I am not as social as my brother, although more so lately. My brother, when he was playing soccer a long time ago, everyone called him a friend magnet because he had this ability to join any friend group or any group of people and immediately make friends. And people would follow him wherever he went. And whenever he left, people missed him after he'd gone and would somehow find ways to find him again. I, on the other hand, had spent the last 3 years of my life mostly studying and dedicating my time to finishing homework and keeping ahead in classes, and then eventually traveling. It's hard to bring friends along when you travel. So we are different socially. And lastly, we have different levels of determination. My brother, my parents would say he's not as determined as I am. He likes to think about things for a long time before he sets goals. And sometimes he just kind of falls into his goals. He'll choose one opportunity and then wait for the next one to come along. Whereas I am more determined than my brother in a way. I will set a very high and lofty goal and then do whatever I can to get there, and spend a large majority of my time just focusing on that one goal. So even though my brother and I grew up together and we've spent so much time together even now, we're 2 very different people. And we're different with our lifestyles and socially, and we're different in our levels of determination. So, what ways are you different from your siblings, and why? Alright, now that's an example of an academic speech. I had, maybe it wasn't perfect, but it had some of the basic structures to it that are important. I began with a little story, which is always a nice thing to have for a hook at the beginning. And I had an introduction that covered the 3 topics that I would be covering, and I had 3 topics for 3 body paragraphs. And I had a conclusion that linked back with a cohesive device. I used repetition, repeating words like lifestyle, social, determination. Those are cohesive words to bring back ideas that I had talked about in the main part of my speech. So, my hope for you is that you can give good academic speeches with a good amount of structure and an interesting hook, and that you can think well about your audience before you start speaking, and think about who they are and what they're expecting from you and what your purpose is. So the next activity we'll be having you do is to give your own academic speech, and make sure you have an introduction and a conclusion and 3 body paragraphs.